So we know that as a species, we've had a massive change in the things that we're doing during our childhood. 200 years ago, about 5% of the world's children grew up in cities. Nowadays, it's about 60% of the world's children, going up to 70% by about 2050. So this has really affected all aspects of childhood. But we really know astonishingly little about how these changes are affecting children. So that's what we set out to try and find the answer to. It's also important from the point of view of understanding, things like how we design education. If different living environments affect children in different ways, then we ought to be tailoring our education depending on the type of the environment that the child comes from. What we had to do was to actually design our own equipment to use it, designing these little wearable baby monitors so we could hear what they were hearing, see what they were seeing, and also measure how their stress was fluctuating during the day. We took a cohort of children, so most of our cohort was in East London, where we have this amazing variety of different early life environments experienced by different children. And then we also had a comparison cohort in Cambridge where there's a lot less urban density. And then we basically compared, how these babies differed depending on the different environments that they were growing up in. So our main findings were that city life does affect stress in children. So even by 12 months, the children raised in more high urban density settings tended to have higher physiological stress in their bodies, which is really important because nobody's shown that city life affects your stress, during the early stages of life before. But then we also looked at how these high stress city babies, how they learn differently. And here I think we've got something really important, which is the picture isn't all bad. In some ways, city children performed worse at some of the tasks that we were giving them, so they found it harder to concentrate on one thing for a sustained period of time. They also showed more up and down in their stress level, so when we gave them an emotional challenge, they got more stressed more quickly. But in other ways, they actually performed better than the low stress kind of rural children. So for example, they were better at rapid forms of learning. So when we flash something at them, then we could see that their brain's engaging more with the stuff that we give it to them. And also we can show that they're learning better as a result of what they've been watching. So this is really, really important because it gives us some tips about how we can change educational practice to optimize these high stress city children. They're not so good at sitting still and concentrating on one thing for a very long period of time. So we shouldn't necessarily be trying to push them towards something that they're not naturally so good at, but they are good at other things. So they're good at this rapid information intake from lots of different places at once. And that's really important because it's a really good life skill, but it's something that we're not targeting at all at the moment in how we design educational practice to get the best type of learning environment for these children.